wander too far. We need you here, champion.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Haas, and today we take a look in the form of a short overview at the very first zones in the Warlords of Draenor beta. The introductory experience meant for level 90s, namely the Tanaan Jungle, the very first actual Draenor zone, and before that, some changes that have taken place in the old Blasted Lands. First things first, the ancient zone of the Blasted Lands is receiving yet another little update in Warlords of Draenor. Currently in the beta, the very first quest you receive is a call to arms from Khadgar. Lore fans will recognize him as one of the most powerful wizards of all time, a former apprentice of Medivh who has up until this point been mainly hanging out in Shattrath and Outland from the Burning Crusade, where he seems to take great pleasure in having his servants give unsuspecting players the longest tours of their lives. But all of that aside, the point is, you are sent on your way to the Blasted Lands, where the Iron Horde, the new orcish threat, has begun their invasion. Now the quests here are almost identical for both Horde and Alliance, the only difference being in which characters are playing a role in the quests, mostly Thrall for the Horde and Marad for the Alliance. Your goal in the Blasted Lands is then pretty simple: fight back the Iron Horde. Very quickly on, you're asked to look at a telescope set up to observe the Dark Portal. Once you arrive at said telescope, you'll be greeted by Khadgar and a dead scout. Looking through the telescope, we get to see that the Dark Portal has received a little bit of paint. No longer being green, it is now glowing bright red, which can't be a good thing, and it has Iron Horde orcs pouring out of it at a rapid pace, which definitely isn't a good thing. Khadgar then leaves to inform War Chief Vol'jin or King Varian Rin, depending on your faction, and you must continue to fight back the initial Iron Horde forces in the form of their partially hidden scouts and roaming execution squads. After dispatching these orcs, Thrall or Marad will set up a small squad behind enemy lines. Once you meet either of them there, you're informed that Netherguard Keep is no longer in Alliance hands and has been largely destroyed and taken by the Iron Horde, something we of course can't allow them to have. You're then charged to lead a small attack force, which largely means placing banners, to take back Netherguard Keep for the Alliance or claim it instead for the Horde. Either way, we're kicking out the Iron Horde bastards, so with the cunning use of flags, Orgrimmar or Stormwind soldiers will assist you in kicking Iron Horde butt as you go around killing the lunatic lieutenants in order to steal their battle plans. After handing in said battle plans, you learn that the Iron Horde has become best buddies with the local Dreadmaw ogres, and that these ogres are just as responsible for the destruction that has now occurred in the Blasted Lands. Obviously, we got to return some of the favor, and were tasked with killing a ton of Dreadmaw ogres in addition to their main Iron Horde contact, the lovely named Toofsmash, the Annihilator. After having dealt with these ogres, only one big threat remains in the Blasted Lands, for the time being. In addition to having taken Netherguard Keep, the Iron Horde has also raided and taken control of the former Horde base Okerlon Hold. Within Okerlon Hold resides Garmak Bladetwist, the officer in charge of the Iron Horde assault in the Blasted Lands. So, logically, killing this orc will significantly increase our chances in taking back everything within the Blasted Lands. And with a little help of either Marad or Thrall, dispatching Garmak should be absolutely no issue. And that right there is enough to stop the Iron Horde for the time being. One task remains, talking to either War Chief Vol'jin or King Varian Rin, who then reward you with this incredibly cute little Iron Starlet. Back in the Blasted Lands, Archmage Khadgar is fighting in front of the Dark Portal with a combined Alliance and Horde vanguard. As you arrive, there seems to be a small stop in the seemingly relentless Iron Horde assault, giving you and the vanguard a chance to charge in and find out what is actually happening on the other side of the portal. The Tanaan Jungle, the level 90 introductory version of the Tanaan Jungle called Assault on the Dark Portal. It is our first taste of the savage land that is Draenor. In the original timeline, this has become the Hellfire Peninsula in Outland, but back in Draenor, in this alternative timeline, this is a lush zone filled with all manner of exotic birds, and mainly just a lot of orcs. As you've just rushed through the Dark Portal, you're met with a huge Iron Horde army right in front of you, staring you down. You then find a message from Grommash Hellscream himself, which notes that GUL'DAN and his Shadow Council are being held captive against their will and are somehow functioning as the power source for the Dark Portal. Running into one of the spires of the Dark Portal, you'll find the captive Shadow Council members. First up is Taran Gore, who quickly asks you to free him, and then informs you that, indeed, the Iron Horde has been using them to power the portal. As you enter the second spire, you're met with another Shadow Council member, namely Cho'Gao. Freeing them is probably not going to end up being a problem for us later on. It's definitely not a bad idea, but either way, we have no real choice in the matter right now, and in fact, we're about to meet the man leading the Shadow Council himself, GUL'DAN. The final, definitely not evil character that we need to rescue in order to shut down the Dark Portal and prevent the Iron Horde from sending more forces into Azeroth. Destroying his bonds then sets GUL'DAN free, and without him being used as a conduit, the portal itself shuts down. When you report this mixed success to Khadgar, you and the remaining Alliance and Horde forces retreat backwards to the section of the Tanaan Jungle located behind the now offline portal, hoping to outrun the Iron Horde forces. As you and the rest of the Vanguard forces take a small breather, Khadgar tasks you with the important job of starting a bunch of fires, in order to distract the Bleeding Hollow clan that resides in these parts. Depending on whether you're Alliance or Horde, you'll also receive some quests informing you that the Bleeding Hollow clan has been taking Draenei or Orcs captive, asking you to rescue any captives you find while you go through their camps and set everything on fire. After this brief moment of playing as a fire mage, you'll join up again with the Vanguard forces, who now also contain an increasing number of rescued Draenei or Orc citizens. But another obstacle is in your path: a giant floating eyeball. As Khadgar puts it, you and that strapping orc that isn't Thrall are then sent to carry out yet another distraction. As you interrupt the Bleeding Hollow clan's blood rituals, Kilrogg himself is becoming increasingly annoyed and finally arrives as you shut down the last blood orb. Kilrogg's arrival presents a certain threat, but in dramatic fashion, Ariok embraces the power of the entire blood ritual, transforming himself into a lumbering berserker. As you reunite with Khadgar, he tells you that we cannot wait for Ariok, he's probably dead anyway, to return, and calls down a number of meteors to destroy the only bridge connecting this part of the jungle, hopefully cutting off the Iron Horde for the moment. Here we then have another small deviation in Horde and Alliance. Khadgar informs you that a specific Draenei or Orc is being detained by the Shattered Hand in this region, who may prove to be a potential ally. Regardless of faction, you in fact find both chained to a pillar surrounded by a barrier of fire. The captured individuals in question are Exarch Meladar, a new ally if you are Alliance, and the one and only Farseer Drekthar, your new ally if you are Horde. Grateful of their rescue, they join you and the rest of the Vanguard. It is then at this point about time that the survivors move on, but the only way to do so seems to be right through an orcish combat arena. Within the arena, you then meet Kargath Bladefist, leader of the Shattered Hand, who immediately sends his orcs to fight you, saying that he will not let you go unless you've taken care of 100 of his orcs, being the madman that he is. When the fight seems to be going your way, Khadgar snap freezes the remaining Shattered Hand orcs and blasts open the gates, allowing you and the rest to quickly run through. Upset, Kargath and his orcs try desperately to chase you down, but it turns out they can't quite get around the newly formed collapsed tunnel. However, this cave is certainly not a safe place to stay, and is in fact filled with Ner'zhul's Shadow Moon orcs, who aren't any less cruel. Your task is then simple: kill more Iron Horde, starting with a number of Ner'zhul's lieutenants. In this cave we then find Yrel. Being a little bit disappointed that we couldn't kill the lieutenant ourselves, we find out that she's a student of Karabor and joins you in your mission. Finally, one lieutenant remains, Caladan the Breaker, who, much like the previous lieutenants we dispatched, is in the middle of some sort of ritual opening a portal. As we rudely interrupt him and are about to send him into the void that he seems to draw upon, he calls out for Ner'zhul himself. Ner'zhul happily replies, appearing out of the portal Caladan had opened, and with a quick spell, ends the life of his worthless lieutenant. At that point, the rest of the Vanguard forces arrive, and Ner'zhul quickly responds by trying to bury us all alive. Luckily, we do have the most powerful wizard with us, and one quick mass teleportation spell then allows most of us to escape to the other end before the entire tunnel collapses. At this point, we're right in front of the Black Rock Quarry, out in the open with little choice but to go right through this Iron Horde stronghold. We do have quite the small army with us, but we're lacking in weapons. Luckily, the Black Rock Orcs seem to have plenty to spare. After borrowing a good number of them, it is time to arm our army of former prisoners and see what they can do. Blackhand himself then makes an appearance, but seems confident enough in his orcs and his Black Rock war machine. His first mistake. Khadgar, always the creative one, has a plan, and after a short but brutal fight with the Black Rock Orcs, Khadgar destroys the entire dam overlooking the quarry, turning the entire section into an unusable lake. The dwarves among us then quickly formulate a plan which, of course, involves a lot of black rock gunpowder and explosions. Furthermore, the huge Iron Horde tank called the Worldbreaker that is stationed right in front of us, pointing at the Dark Portal, might be of some use, but in order to use it we need to find its blueprints. Here we also meet up and rescue Gnar, an elder of the Frostwolf clan and Durotan's older brother, who currently doesn't have the most honorable job as an Iron Horde slave. We then forcibly take the key to his lock, rescue Gnar, find the blueprints of the Worldbreaker, and finally utilize all that gunpowder we've clumsily left all over the place to strike another blow at the Iron Horde. With the blueprints of the Worldbreaker, we're presented with an interesting opportunity. Leaving the Dark Portal intact is risky, as the Iron Horde might find another way to open it. Luckily for us, they've left a weapon capable of blowing it up right in front of its doorstep, and we of course can't help but try and use it ourselves. After dispatching of the Grand Guardian, Thaylen tries to hammer his way into the Worldbreaker. Literally. While he is trying to get the Worldbreaker to work, a large force of Iron Horde orcs is descending upon Khadgar and the rest of our forces. After a small turret section of blowing up many orcs, Thaylen finally figures out how this orc machinery works and unleashes its glorious power against the Dark Portal. We've now made the already angry orc army even more angry, and our only hope at this point is running towards the docks and hopefully escaping with one of the station's ships. Luckily, we make it out in time, allowing our Horde forces to leave with one ship on their way to Frostfire Ridge, and the Alliance forces with the second ship to Shadowmoon Valley. And that right there is an entire overview of the Tanaan Jungle introductory experience. And it is definitely worth noting that this is in fact the introductory experience for level 90s, as there is another Tanaan Jungle section planned to be added somewhere post-release. But this is a nice, competent intro to the game. A relatively short and easy, heavily guided experience which nicely introduces almost every major story character in Warlords of Draenor. My name is Ben Haas, and I'll see you in the next video.